This morning we're going to hear the words of Matthew from chapter 5, but we're going to hear them from the New Living Translation. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who are hungry and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This is God's word today. Thanks be to God.
So 8 blessings. We are in the midst of working through Jesus' Beatitudes. Beatitude simply means blessing or blessed are. 8 times Jesus says, blessed are. And this Sunday, as Phil kind of alluded to earlier, we've crossed the halfway point. We are at blessed are number 5. And finally, at least from my perspective, we get a blessing that actually sounds like a blessing. I'm glad someone laughed because, haven't you got the feeling that these blessings don't really feel like blessings? Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn, the meek, those who hunger and thirst because things are not right. These first 4 blessings, if we'll be candid, don't sound like blessings at all. Not really. In fact, if I could summarize for you these first 4 blessings, it would go something like this. Jesus seems to be saying, blessed are the empty, for they are ready for God to fill them. The first 4 blessings are blessings of emptiness. And again, to our ears, this doesn't sound like a blessing. In fact, it sounds like the opposite of being blessed. I don't like feeling empty. I don't like it at all. But you have to admit that when you are empty, you are ready, open to being filled, right? If your hands aren't empty, you aren't ready to receive a gift, no matter how nice it is. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. If you don't experience what it means to be poor, then you're never really ready for help, are you? God can't save those who are never in trouble, or at least never feel like they're in trouble. If you don't let yourself mourn, if you don't let yourself feel sad, you will always have your back turned to the warmth and care of others, to God's warmth and care for you. If you're always feeling the need to take control, if you're not feeling meek, then you're always carrying a burden that you have to manage yourself, and there's never rest. If you always have to be right, if you always have to look right, sound right, have the right answer, then you have no room to change or learn or grow. Blessed are those who are empty, for they are ready for God to fill them. So these first 4 blessings, well, they're about being empty, but they're really about being ready to be filled. These are the blessings of an open hand. These are the blessings of being ready to receive. The blessing of hope, even. Blessed are the empty, for they are ready for God to fill them. Being empty isn't a bad thing when God is close by, ready to fill you. Let me say that again. Being empty is not a bad thing when God is close by, ready to fill you. And when is God not close by? When is God not ready to fill us? But that's all in the past, right? We're moving on today, moving away from emptiness, from neediness. This week we get to talk about those who are full, those who are doing the filling. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. These second four blessings are different from the first. Think of it this way. Picture, if you will, that you're at a soup kitchen, and Jesus starts by teaching that those standing in line, holding out their trays, are blessed. They come hungry. They come empty. They've come ready to be filled. That's the first four blessings. But now this week we get to stand on the other side of the line and we get to dish out the blessings, to serve the food that fills, to fill the emptiness. We get to be smiling and gracious and generous. We get to be merciful. And Jesus says, blessed are those who are merciful. Or here's another picture. With the four first blessings, we have the picture of the prodigal son returning home. He's broken. He's guilty. He's in rags. And he's deeply, deeply ashamed. He's poor in spirit. He's mourning what he's done. He's powerless, really, to change his life. And he's hungry for things to be right again. That's the first four blessings. The second, but now we're on the other side. Again, this time we get to be the Father who welcomes him with open arms, who lifts him up off of his knees and wraps a brand new robe around him. These four blessings mean we get to throw a party and welcome our son home. These feel like blessings. These feel much better. We get to show, give mercy. Blessed are the merciful. This week we get to talk about the heroes, right? We're talking about people who are making a difference in our world. We're talking about showing kindness and forgiving sins and bringing comfort, maybe even saving lives. Instead of blessing emptiness, this week, Jesus blesses those who are filled to overflowing with mercy. But what does mercy really look like? I would like to invite our children to come forward, if they would. We're going to watch a short story on the screen. Kids, come. You thought we forgot about you, but no, we didn't. It's all part of our master plan. So come here and sit down, and we're going to watch a video that will teach us what it means to experience mercy.
On a cold, bleak night long ago, a beggar wandered the streets looking for a warm place to rest his head. His wanderings seemed in vain, however, for there was no one who failed to recognize the notorious vagabond and thief, Jean Valjean. And so, weary and frozen to the bone, Valjean tried one last door, that of the town bishop. And to his surprise, the bishop welcomed him with open arms. The kind bishop fed the pitiful Valjean, and then he bid him good night. But Valjean, returning to old habits, plundered the bishop's home of its silver, and he stole off into the night. But he didn't get far. Come the morning, Valjean found himself once more in the bishop's home, this time escorted by the gendarme that had apprehended him.
This man seems to have taken possession of all your valuables, Father, but he claims you gave them to him as a gift.
The pitiful Valjean sunk deeper into his shame, but the bishop, in kindness and grace, looked upon Valjean and said,
Yes, it's true. I gave him those trinkets. But Valjean, you left so quickly that you forgot the second part of your gift.
Then the bishop took his most treasured of possessions, his silver candlesticks, and offered them to the thief. Valjean was taken aback by the man's mercy.
My good men, unshackle him. You may be on your way.
Once the gendarme had left, the bishop told the thief,
With this silver, I have ransomed your soul for Christ. Go now, redeemed and restored, and live a life worthy of this gift.
And in that moment, the thief was forever changed, for he had never known such grace.
That's kind of a neat story, isn't it? And the guy has a funny name, doesn't he? It's fun to say, Jean Valjean. You have to kind of wrinkle up your nose when you say it. Jean Valjean. Can you say that? Jean Valjean. Yeah. Now that story doesn't come from the Bible, but it teaches us a lesson about mercy. The same kind of mercy that Jesus was talking about. Jean Valjean was hungry and cold and needed a warm place to stay. And remember, he went to all the houses and he knocked on the door, but nobody would let him in. I wonder why. Finally, Jean Valjean, the last house he went to was the house of the bishop, a very important person, and he thought for sure that he would not let him in. But did the bishop let him in? Yeah. The bishop showed mercy. He invited someone in who was cold and hungry, and he set him down at his table, and he fed him a delicious meal and made sure he was warm. Even though Jean Valjean was probably a little dirty and maybe even a little smelly, the bishop welcomed him into his home. That is a picture of mercy. What did Jean Valjean do then? Was he nice to the bishop? No. He stole all of the bishop's silver. It was the same things he set out for his dinner, and he took it all, and he was going to run away with it. But Jean Valjean got caught by the police, and they marched him back to the bishop's house and said, "We caught this man with all of these valuables that are yours. We think he has stolen them, but he says that you gave them to him." And the bishop smiled and said, "They are a gift to him. But Jean Valjean, you forgot the most important gift, these silver candlesticks." And he took to his most important treasure and he gave them to Jean Valjean. Even though the man had done something to hurt the bishop, he took his most treasured possessions. The bishop forgave him. And this too is mercy. two kinds of mercy we see in this story. The mercy of showing care and kindness to those who are poor and hungry and in need, and the mercy of forgiving those who have done something wrong. And you know what that second mercy did? It changed Jon Valjean. He was no longer a thief after that. He was no longer a troublemaker. He was honest and good. When we show mercy to others, we will find mercy shown to us. That's the lesson that we're learning today. I would invite you to grab a coloring sheet over there and a bag of colors, and you can return to your seats with your parents. And while they're returning, something else I realized from watching this story today. Something else that I noticed. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. I realized that this mercy actually cost the bishop something. The trinkets that the bishop mentioned were his silver. The place settings he would set before his valued, honored guests. And when the bishop handed over the candlesticks, did you catch what they said? It was his most treasured possession. He handed them over to Jon Valjean and gave them to him. And it reminded me that mercy costs something. Showing mercy costs us something. We empty ourselves of something when we show mercy. Sometimes it's insignificant. Other times it costs us dearly. It may be very concrete, a candlestick or money or time or work. Or the cost may be harder to calculate. A sense of fairness or justice, or a significant loss we have to deal with and live with. If you think about it, the bishop lost more than his silver in this story. I'm sure that his reputation was downgraded a little bit. After all, was he that wise for showing mercy to a known criminal? Mercy costs us something, forces us to give up something. It empties us a little. But we're not surprised by this, are we? I mean, we're here this morning to celebrate mercy, to celebrate the mercy shown to us in Jesus, a mercy we didn't deserve, and a mercy that cost God dearly. I was reflecting this week on the emptiness that mercy produces. And I was thinking about Jesus leaving heaven to come to earth. How do you think heaven felt when it had been emptied of the Son, of Jesus? Heaven had never been without God's beloved Son. But now Jesus' voice is no longer heard there. His face isn't seen in heaven anymore. The angels had no Son to sing to or praise. Can heaven feel empty? I think in that moment, it must have. And we know, of course, that Jesus did more than leave heaven. He also, when he came to redeem us, emptied himself. Paul describes this in the book of Philippians chapter 2 when he writes, "Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant." Did you catch that phrase right in the middle? He emptied himself. The king took the form of a servant. Mercy costs us something. Jesus himself said that he did not come to be served, as he should have been, but to serve and to give up his life for a ransom. Mercy costs something. It empties us, but it also fills. I don't know exactly how this works, how God designed the universe to work this way, but when we show others mercy, when we empty ourselves by showing mercy to others, we find ourselves filled. That mercy comes back to us. Jesus, after emptying himself and becoming obedient, even obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross, found himself filled back up. Here's how Paul puts it, continuing that passage we just read. Therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above every name. Jesus pays a great cost to redeem us. But in the end, he knows the emptying will lead to a filling. In fact, Jesus knows there's joy ahead. And the writers of Hebrews puts it this way. He says that Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus poured out mercy, emptied himself, knowing that he was going to be full of joy, that joy was waiting for him on the other side. Joy always follows being merciful. Joy is always the result of giving to others. If we are going to be a people who are filled with mercy and overflowing with mercy, if we're going to pursue together the joy of being merciful, what's this going to look like? And what's it going to cost? If we are going to be a people of mercy, then we are going to have to practice mercy in our families. Can I give you an example? Let's say that a young boy, maybe his name is Winston or Wesley or Wyland, have forgotten their homework. They would never do that, right? Never, ever forget homework at school. And this particular assignment is an important assignment. The teacher has said there will be no late papers handed in. If you don't get this done, you will get a 0. And I don't know why teachers do that, but once in a while they do. And now Wesley and Winston and Wyland, whichever of them left their homework at home, are feeling, shall we say, poor in spirit, right? I mean, they're feeling bad. This is going to cost them. And they are mourning the fact that they can't blame this on their brothers, right? It's their fault. And being meek, they have no power at all to change the situation. I don't think any of them drive yet, do they? Wyland, do you drive yet? No, he doesn't drive yet. Okay. And they hunger for things to be made right. And so they do what every child asks, which I'm sure I asked when I forgot my homework. Can you take me back to school so I can get my homework and get my assignment done? And of course, as a child, we're just thinking about what we need, right? But as a mom, you realize that there's a cost involved. I mean, you're home for the night. And we haven't had too many cold nights lately, but this is February, and if I'm right, we're still in Wisconsin, right? And who wants to go out again at night after you're home and you're warm and you're fed, and maybe there's still work to do, or worse, maybe there isn't more work to do, and you have a night to relax. And moms calculate, all sorts of things like, will the school even be open? Is his homework even there? And how in the world am I going to teach him to be responsible? Mercy costs something. Mercy always costs something. And sometimes it's little costs. But sometimes the costs of our family are much greater, aren't they? Sometimes the wounds that we carry or the sins that we live with cause deep pain and deep hurt. But still, we as families must show each other mercy. And we need to show mercy to our friends and to our family members as well, our friends and our coworkers as well. I have a friend, Bob, who taught me this recently. He was doing some repair work for a guy he knew, and long story short, the guy cheated on him. Cheated him out of some money. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I remember Bob saying he was really angry about it. You know, it's kind of the principle of the thing. You do work for someone, you expect to get paid. But this guy came up with some excuse, and it just made Bob mad. And of course, Bob did what you do, right? You go confront the guy, and you tell him really mad, and of course the guy denied it, and I mean, it was not a knockdown, drag out, but it was kind of the end of the relationship at that point, right? Finally, Bob came to the realization that actually it wasn't worth it. I mean, he was getting burned up every time he thought about this situation. And he didn't like the way that felt. And frankly, the money wasn't that much money anyway. There was more to it than just the money, right? The principle of the thing and being right and having to kind of give up on your anger. There was a cost involved. But Bob decided to show mercy. He went and said that the money wasn't important, that he would rather that they were friends again. And you know what? The man was surprised, shocked that Bob would do that, and touched. They apologized to each other. Their relationship was restored. That's what mercy looks like between friends and coworkers and people we have to deal with. And again, sometimes the cost is small, and other times the cost is greater. But if we are going to be blessed, we need to show mercy to our family and our friends and our coworkers. And of course, we also need to show mercy here at church, right? And the hour before our worship service, we learned about care, and we had some of the members of our visitation team there. If you're on the visitation team, would you raise your hand just real briefly? I know this is, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway, okay? These are people who show mercy all the time by going and visiting those who can't get out, by visiting those who are homebound or in a nursing home. And it's a simple thing, and most of them would say it's a very enjoyable thing, and yet it costs an afternoon. It's a little uncomfortable the first time you show up and you say hi, and they say, "Who are you?" You know, I mean, these people don't always remember everything, even the things they've said in the same conversation, they don't quite always remember. But you know what? Mercy costs. It's a great way of showing mercy and care. These are all great ways of showing mercy and care, but I think Jesus would invite us to go deeper. If we want to really look like Jesus, I think we're going to have to go beyond simply being merciful to our families and our friends and our coworkers. You know, most people are merciful to their family or friends or co-workers, whether they're Christian or not. But Jesus shows us, invites us into a deeper understanding of mercy, one that takes us outside of our comfort zones and our safe areas. If we're going to be like Jesus, I think we're going to have to maybe go where the poor and needy are. It might look like serving them at a New Day meal. It might mean volunteering at a place where we find them. It might mean coming close to someone who is a little dirty and a little smelly, or who's really broken. This is, after all, what Jesus did for us, right? The verse goes like this. But God showed his great love, his great mercy for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still dirty little sinners. We just want to be like Jesus. We want to be merciful like Jesus because we know it's a blessed life. And we know that those who show mercy will be shown mercy. Blessed are you when you are merciful, for you will be shown mercy. Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you we don't understand the cost of Jesus coming and living for us and with us and among us and healing us and teaching us, but ultimately dying for us. We don't understand the cost of that, Lord. But we know that it's pure mercy. And we want to be people who are full of mercy as well. So we ask that you would pour your mercy into us and fill us up with such overflowing of mercy that it spills out to those around us. Help us to be merciful to our families in little and big ways. Help us to be merciful to our friends and coworkers in little and big ways. Help us to be merciful at church in little and big ways. But also, Lord, invite us out into your world where there is deep, deep need and deep, deep brokenness. And fill us to overflowing so that we can share your mercy with everyone. And all God's people said, amen.